A pile of cookies could be called a stack. Is a pile of memories called a life?
Hey, fun fans, it's We Enjoy. We've got news, we've got Youse. Let's get into it. We're the Mattitude Eric. My name is Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
It is. Somber Matt Fowler to begin here.
These are somber times. When better to be somber than right now, than here and now? We got a few write-ins here, but we've got a lot of entertainment news, some big, some small. I have a recommendation. I am assuming Eric does too, because he sees way more things than I do. So what do you want to start with, Eric? What's out of the gate? What do you want to get into? What do you want to dig into? What do you want to sift through?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Let's talk about Desert Warrior, because it's a movie I didn't even know about till this morning.
Let's talk about Desert Warrior / Michael. So we'll talk about box office of this past weekend.
Well, starting with Michael, I guess. I severely underestimated how much people gave a shit.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I did not think that this was on anybody's P1. I was like, oh, Michael's going to come and go. Who cares about Michael?
Oh, Matt. Oh.
Look, I own Thriller like everyone.
Yeah,
I was alive in the 80s. I understood what a big sensation he was. Do you think there was almost a buildup? I mean, obviously, there are people out there who are still massive Michael Jackson fans. Like, he was a global sensation. But do you think there was also possibly a buildup of people wanting something reverent for Michael Jackson because of how much he's been quasi-canceled musically, for the past, 15 years?
Obviously.
Where it's like, it's become a, should I play Michael Jackson at this party type of situation? Where it's like, is it okay to play him?
But the flip side was knowing there's a lot of people who have completely either compartmentalize that or just deny anything bad, and especially since his death, acted like none of that stuff ever happened. See, the funny thing is, I guess I was surprised you were surprised, only because some people thought this movie would be even bigger. Like the expectations as it got closer, it's like, okay,
I thought this movie was going to open like Desert Warrior. Not
that's funny.
No, not like
because
that,
like a year ago, people were like, this movie could be absolutely massive. Like, it's not going to make like $1 billion, but it's going to be a giant hit, music biopic. And so, yeah, I think there is just a worldwide audience for him. He is, obviously he is one of the most popular musical artists ever.
He's still he's the largest selling album of all time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the reverence people have for him, that in life, and I'd say even more in death, because a lot of people have been discussing, by the time he died, the accusations about him had become so prevalent in pop culture, and that was kind of the pop culture depiction of him. They went hand in hand. Parodies, whether he
was basically a late night joke. You know what I mean? Like he had become whatever Jay Leno was saying. Jay Leno was probably not making those jokes, but Conan and Letterman
I think he was. I think he was, though. I think it was that level of mainstream, right, where everyone made jokes, whether they were gentle or more scathing. And then of course there were already the diehard fans who said he did nothing wrong. Still coughing, by the way, this week. Sorry, but I think what happened since his death is, then the pendulum swung back and the reverence took back over.
I think that's what I'm saying. I think there was a buildup of some of fans and people who have either people who are in denial or people who just can compartmentalize and don't give a shit because they don't hold empathy for others, like outside of their direct purview. There's this buildup of, we want it to be okay for Michael Jackson music to be played again. You know what I mean? Like we want to like not have any question marks or asterisks next to the name of Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And so my point is, I think there was a significant buildup of people wanting, like the floodgates basically opened as far as like, it's okay to see Michael Jackson again. And so everyone sort of flooded in, include people of all sorts. Right. I also constantly, and I always have to remind myself that I underestimate people's love of the fucking musical biopic, which is one of my least favorite movie genres. They seem to turn away from the Bruce Springsteen one and a few of the past ones that just came out as far as musical biopics go.
There was an Aretha one that came and went, wasn't there?
Yeah, like they don't land all the time, but man, when they
But
land,
when they land,
you get a fucking Bohemian Rhapsody. And again, you get the whatever the opposite of warts and all is, you get the glossed over traditional blueprint of a musical biopic, which many people argued Walk Hard sort of like killed for a while because it was like so telling. Yeah, and yet it didn't. So yeah, anyway, it was a huge hit, but it's really funny to me that now it is such a big hit that they actually have to make a sequel and go into things that they didn't want to talk about in this movie.
But
or will they? Who knows?
Well, no, Matt. I mean, so I don't know how much you. I guess maybe you didn't follow a lot of the making of this movie, Matt. Because
no, I did not.
Oh, okay. They had to reshoot. They had to change the whole ending in this movie. This movie now ends. I think it ends with like Bad coming out. It originally went into the early '90s. It went into the first accusations against him, and so it did involve the earliest of that. Now, of course, I think we all knew that this movie.
Right, but my point is that they made a choice to not do that.
No, but they didn't make a choice. They legally fucked up in a huge legal way because it involved like one of the people, like the family. I'm gonna paraphrase this all, but it was like basically they legally were not supposed to include people. There was a big fuck up along the way, and they were legally supposed to include people that were included in the movie as like characters as involved in the lawsuit.
Okay.
And so basically that's a big reason this movie got delayed was because they were like, oh fuck. And so they did extensive reshoots on this movie. And there's talk about how much Antoine Fuqua was or wasn't involved in the reshoots and all this different stuff. There's 4 editors listed on this movie. That there was a lot of retooling of this movie, but especially the ending of it, because it was going to go. But we also knew from the get-go, his family is producing it. His nephew is starring in it. No matter what, even if you think he was ultimately innocent, this is not going to be a fair depiction as far as like not, skewed heavily one way because of the family's involvement from the get-go.
So then a part 2, even if they do delve into this, is still going to be like, it's going to probably paint the accusers in a bad light.
Almost certainly. It'll certainly make him look like, the innocent guy trying to do, be good to kids and look what happened. But also, as a lot of people pointed out, what a weird thing to even make the second one now. And money talks more than anything in Hollywood. But I saw someone do a post. It's like, Michael Part 1, all the stuff you liked. Michael Part 2, the other stuff. Because right. He still had hits. His most iconic music was in the 80s. And B, it's going to have to deal with all this stuff that is so ugly on whatever level, even if you're the people who tell yourself it was all fine. And that even if you're one of the people who say it wasn't weird to have kids who weren't his own kids sleeping in his room and nothing else happened. But even if you tell yourself it's totally normal, he didn't have a normal childhood. In
the very least, it's severely inappropriate.
No, exactly.
Like that's the the very least. So yeah. So
but it's so I think they should rethink doing this second movie, but I don't think they will because they like money in Hollywood. And
let Todd Phillips do it.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
make it a full ado. He's the king of the sequel. Yeah, I don't. Again, like it's interesting to me that. Like that, yeah, we're gonna get a Michael 2. What could they possibly? How like you can skirt around things with what they chose to portray in the first movie, but like you can't. Like it's predominant in whatever second half of Michael's career you're going to cover, unless you're just literally covering the 1988 Bad Tour, unless that's the whole movie.
Not because I think the movie ends with him doing a concert for Bad. So yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that's the thing. It ends with the Bad. Yeah.
More of the Bad Tour. Yeah, because the second movie would be lawsuit and court heavy. And so, they should take their money and be happy, but that's not how it's probably going to work. I guess there is some on-screen text teasing the sequel. A lot of people made a lot of, as you might guess, Matt, funny and very dark jokes about a mid-credit scene and what it would possibly be for what's going to be next in Michael's life. But also, look, I don't know if I'll ever see this movie. Probably not. But everyone says it's the reason it got really weak reviews is because it's so just, hey, look at a recreation of the Thriller video. Like, listen to the songs you like. They're great songs.
So
And
the
we're just
reason
gonna
I think it's getting like bad reviews, and again, there are going to be some reviewers, and some reviewers can't help reviewing a movie sans behind the scenes context,
sure.
or real life context, whether they know about what you just talked about, which was like the stuff that was filmed and then had to be re-edited and reshot and stuff, or the real life stuff that was purposely left out anyway, and they're like, well, this is not like a true depiction of the events that occurred, you know. I think it just gets weak reviews because it's a schmaltzy fucking musical biopic, and they are not like, it's not strong cinema. This is according to Matt Fowler, is my, you know, because you get like a Bohemian Rhapsody, which is sort of, I think, a kind of a piece of shit movie. But anyway, like,
and I think a lot of the critics, you know, said the same thing about Bohemian Rhapsody. But again, people love Queen music. They love seeing it, hearing it again.
And they could literally just listen to a best of Queen on Spotify, but like,
yeah, or you could watch the Thriller video on YouTube right now if you wish. But no, it is funny though to see what a legal quagmire this movie was. Kat Graham from the Vampire Diaries was supposed to be Diana Ross in this movie, and they cut her because of, quote, legal considerations, which obviously means Diana Ross didn't want herself depicted in this movie. Yeah. So it just feels like, yeah, there's such a weird series of landmines with one of the most iconic and famous and beloved by some to this day performers ever. So what a strange situation.
Did you see Rocket Man?
Yes.
Is it good?
It's very good. I liked it a lot. It was.
Okay. I'll say this: I liked Elvis, but I don't consider anything Baz Luhrmann does to be like. I didn't consider it to be a musical biopic. But anyway.
Rocket Man was quite good. And of course, the best biopic in recent years was Better Man, about Robbie Williams, a singer I barely knew any songs of.
Oh yeah, he was a chimp or something.
He was.
You recommended it.
It's great. Better Man is great, and you should watch it.
But would you say that Better Man defies what most, aside from him being an animated chimpanzee, does it defy musical biopic structure and, you know, basically the tropes, or is it kind of the same?
Yes and no, because at the same, guess what? He had drug problems. That movie is, I think that movie, it's funny because even as I'm about to say what I'm about to say, I'm like, well, but you can say this about a lot of other biopics because it's a lot of it has to do with his relationship with his dad. And I know Michael has to do with that. So it's funny because it has all the tropes, but it doesn't feel like it's playing them in the same way necessarily. I'll say that. And there's even some things they do, like the way they depict like a big romance in his life done through musical montage, I thought was quite clever and strangely poignant. Again, for me, who doesn't really know Rob Williams' life and certainly didn't know the very famous in England, UK pop singer he had this relationship with. But I just thought it was good filmmaking. So there you go.
Actually, a movie I really like from Alex Cox, Sid and Nancy, is a great film, a musical biopic. My daughter is named after that movie. Anyway, her
Ampersand. That's her name.
Her name is Alex Cox. No. So yeah, Ampersand, McGillicuddy. So let's see. Okay, so pivoting to Desert Warrior, which is, again, a movie I think I mentioned I didn't know about till this morning. Not when you put it on the docket, but like when I was sifting through news. So Desert Warrior made bottom line, cost $150 million plus, made $500,000 at the box office. Now, the headlines are it's poised to be one of the biggest box office flops ever.
Compared to cost. Yeah.
Right. Have we ever counted international movies on? I mean, what I'm saying is nobody knew about this movie. This movie is from a Saudi Arabian production as part of Saudi Arabia's attempt to enter the global entertainment scene in sort of a cultural makeover that has involved for the past several years, having WWE events and pay-per-views in their country. But it's part of this larger scheme of like trying to like show the Western world, like, look what Saudi Arabia can do and look how much progress we've made. And don't mind the fact that we still machete journalists and persecute homosexuals. And anyway, but my point is, it's a huge bomb, but is it? Like, do we count it? Because it's like, this wasn't a Warner Brothers. You know what I mean?
But I think it is.
I didn't even know it released it. Like, I'm in an Alamo bubble, Eric. You know, I'm always like, what movies are playing? I go to my Alamo app. this was nowhere on it. So I'm not looking at Cinemarks and AMC's, you know.
They clearly gave up on this movie because, yeah, it was barely released. No marketing, you know, not no marketing, but seems like almost no marketing. I didn't hear about it either, Matt, until the end of the weekend when people were talking about how much of a bomb it was. I think we still count it because I still think it is in worldwide cinema history one of the biggest bombs. Also because of the people involved, because it had.
But I still kind of think it's a non-story, Eric, only because, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have put it here. My point is, it's like how we're all talking about that movie that no one would talk about ever, and it probably even wouldn't get made ultimately if it weren't for AI Val Kilmer. And it's this is that, which is that it's got Anthony Mackie in it, but Anthony Mackie has made some pieces of shit over the past 5 years. He is a take the paycheck guy. So it's not like this has, you know, Brad Pitt in it. This, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's an Avenger, but like he says yes to kind of everything. He was in a horrible movie called Elevation that I didn't know existed until last year.
And it has his fellow MCU star, Academy Award winner, will really do anything for money, Ben Kingsley.
Exactly.
But I still
and Charlton Copley. According to IMDb.
A notable director, Rupert Wyatt, director of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So it's like, unlike the AI Val Kilmer movie, which is made by nobodies as far as like the filmmakers, and David Self wrote it, who we did at least one movie he wrote, The Wolfman in 2010. We're about to do another movie he did uncredited rewrites on, Born Identity. So the talent involved here, I think, does make it interesting as far as the deep pockets. They got people that on paper would be a U.S. American, you know, a studio movie.
But we went through this 10 years ago with the Great Wall, which had Matt Damon. It was a Chinese movie, another $150 million budget, Chinese movie starring Matt Damon that had like so many talented people's fingerprints all over it, from Tony Gilroy to Edward Zwick to, you know, like all these people who, like, you know, Pedro Pascal and Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe was the Ben Kingsley of this one, I guess. And this one made money though, but it was just notable because it's like it was a Chinese movie that I don't know it didn't get released here, did it? I don't even know.
It did. It got released here. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still technically a bomb, I suppose. They according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean,
according to Wikipedia, it lost 75 million ultimately.
Yeah,
so
probably didn't make money.
Someone did the carry the 10 math. But I don't know. The Saudi, I feel like these headlines are just a fuck you to Saudi Arabia, right? Like this feels like something that would have come and gone because it's like, oh, Anthony Mackie starring in another like movie that you've never heard about, except that this was a publicity attempt by Saudi Arabia to show that they could make impressive big budgeted movies.
I guess I disagree on that. I think this would have gotten noticed because of the budget, just as a thing to be.
But what do we care what other countries spend on their movies?
No,
you know, are we reporting on box office bombs in China? You know, like
no, but I think because of the budget matched with the fact that it had actual people involved. I don't know.
I think I'm objecting to the actual people parts. Like,
I don't know. I think it puts it on the radar. You know, because someone can write, this movie starred 2 MCU stars and is one of the biggest bombs ever. Look, because I've mentioned before that I cough a lot, but I also mentioned before that I PA'd on one of the biggest box office bombs ever, Town and Country.
Hell yeah.
It doesn't get mentioned a lot. It managed to stay under the radar because of the type of movie it was, and because it had a very big name cast, but not the type of cast that would get you internet attention.
In fact, the most surprising thing about that movie is the budget because of the type of movie it was.
Exactly. And they were kind of lucky, New Line / Warner Brothers at the time, that it didn't get more of like the Waterworld headlines. And the reason it didn't is because it wasn't an obvious target. So it does make me amused when like these things, what bubbles up, what doesn't, why does it bubble up? Why do things become a curiosity? Versus the things the stealth mega bombs that do sneak in.
I just think that this as much of a PR campaign it was for them to make this movie, which again, like we could talk I don't even know what it's about. It takes place in like the 7th century, and it's about, I think everyone's playing the real people. It's based on real historical events in the Middle East of some sort. We don't have to get into that, but I also think as much of a PR attempt it was for them to make this movie to try to like showcase their filmmaking and blockbuster abilities to on a global scale, it's a PR attempt to write these headlines back at them. I think it's just both sides are sort of like shaking their sabers here.
By the way, I am amused, just looking back at the Town and Country wiki page, that movie was greenlit at a $44 million budget, 10 million of which was just because of Warren Beatty at the time. And then that movie ended up costing like 100 million. So,
and I also think it wound up not getting headlines because people know how Warren Beatty is. Like if the industry is going to write these headlines themselves for Deadline or Variety or what have you, they also are aware of how Warren Beatty can be and why it probably, I think they could connect the dots and figure out why it costs $100 million in their own brain.
Yeah.
And also why people didn't go see this movie. Anyway, Dexter. I guess this would be Dexter Resurrection Season 2, which is different than Dexter New Blood.
Right.
Unless they're calling it something different. Do we know if they're actually just calling it Dexter colon?
No, I think they're calling it Dexter Resurrection. I think it's still going to be Dexter Resurrection, which I still have to watch the first season of. I've only seen the first episode.
I've recommended both. What is it? Bad Blood? Cold Blood?
New Blood.
New Blood. I recommended New Blood.
Ironic because of the casting we're about to talk about.
Who? Oh, yes, exactly. So they have cast some people for Dexter Reservation. S2? What did I say?
Reservation.
Well, in my opinionation, I think these are great casting because we've got, first of all, Dan Stevens. That's fun. And then we've got Brian Cox, who's also fun.
We mentioned that one.
I don't think we did.
Oh, did we not? Okay.
No. I don't think we've talked about any casting for season 2 of the show.
And those two are like being described as the two main villains of the season.
Then, as sort of auxiliary, I can say auxiliary or peripheral characters, possibly victims of Dexter, are, if you know, in the horror community, Kane Hodder played Jason 4 times, Eric.
Yep.
But also was in other horror movies and has a fun, interesting story. Stuntman Kane Hodder has been cast, and WWE
I do like that his
AEW superstar.
His fun, interesting story is being engulfed in flame.
I'm just saying, you can look at his fun story online. Everyone's got a fun story, Eric.
What? Lifelong body scarring, yes. He does tell it in a fun way.
He was trying to do a pyro stunt for a journalist in Hawaii, and the wind blew the fire back at him, and he was severely burned early in his career. This didn't happen like 2 years ago.
No.
So Kane Hodder has been cast as Burn Man. I don't know who he is. And Chris Jericho, wrestler Chris Jericho, who does movies occasionally and TV shows, I guess. So that's also fun.
That is all very fun. And Kane Hodder, because Jericho has been does a lot of horror stuff. A lot of young people will know him from Terrifier 2 and 3 right now. Because he was the cliffhanger.
Oh, like the orderly in the hospital or whatever?
Yeah, because he was the cliffhanger of Terrifier 2, and then he got to come back and die. I think I can say that for Terrifier 3.
We're assuming he dies in Dexter Resurrection Season 2 also. So,
and Kane Hodder, very fun, winking casting that is not the kind we normally expect from Dexter. I guess Das Malchin was the most like cult, as in like an actor that was like recognizable, but not a lot of people couldn't name him in the group of serial killers in the first season. Again, I haven't seen the season, but I know what they're doing. Yeah. But Kane Hodder seems like a very fun winking piece of, cinematic history because yes, he's done other horror stuff since, but the reason he's famous is because he's Jason.
What if he's playing himself?
What if he's playing Jason?
What if he's at a Comic-Con? What if it's Dexter versus Jason Voorhees?
There you go. It's all on the table.
And this is when we finally realized, Eric, that Jason also has an inner monologue. And so Jason's going along and everyone's like, it's like, oh man, I would kill for these fries. And Jason's like, I'd kill too. You, because I'm a murderer.
What if the most acclaimed episode of television is the Jason narrated episode of Dexter Resurrection?
Honestly, why hasn't this been floated? I hope it has. Um,
Like, yeah, a couple says, well, let's go have sex. He's like, well, then I'm gonna kill you because I kill couples who have sex. But
what's
that's all I
the
know.
what's the movie that was sort of from the Woodstalker point of view that's getting a sequel in
the
the Eyes of the Madness of the
Behind the Mask.
Behind the Mask? Um, that was sort of a gimmicky take on like the Friday the 13th slasher style movies that's getting a sequel.
Yes.
But I want to say that that's another gimmick movie someone could do is the stalker in the woods, but you actually, who doesn't speak, but you get to hear his zany inner monologue as he's killing people.
I mean, they're doing the sequel to In a Violent Nature, so maybe they can add in that.
That's what, no, that's what it is. You said Behind the Mask.
I said, well, yeah, because they're both the right answer, Matt.
Okay, well, that wasn't the one I was thinking of.
No, because they're both the right answer, and they're both getting sequels. Except Behind the Mask was like 20 years ago, and In a Violent Nature was 2 years ago.
The thing that I'm going to look forward to in A Violent Nature Part 2 is how they top that death from 1, because they're going to have to try. They have to.
Yeah. Oh no, I interviewed last year. I did an interview with the director of the remake of Death Stalker when that came out. Who's he's the same guy, Steve Kostansky. I'm sorry if I'm saying his last name wrong, but he directed PG, Psycho Gorman, a movie I adore. He also does makeup effects, and he worked on In a Violent Nature and the sequel. And he said yes. Of course, I asked him about it. Yes, they are looking to outdo that death in Part 2.
I don't know if you can, but I want to see him try anyway.
Did you ever see Behind the Mask?
No, I did not see Behind the Mask.
Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon is the subtitle. Was kind of.
I've seen it. I've seen it recommended on these are horror movies that have flown under the radar that you should watch. Yeah,
so. It's a mockumentary about a guy who basically decides to be a Jason. Like a camera crew is following around this guy, who's like, and it's like him being like getting out of breath because he has to get his cardio better if he's going to be chasing all these teenagers. And
he realizes he doesn't have to run, right? Like,
I think that might be in the movie. Okay. And it's one of those movies with Robert Englund and Zelda Rubinstein, and people have cameos because, they're doing that thing.
And David Dastmalchian. And for some reason, Dan Stevens is in it.
No, but Kane Hodder is Guy at Elm Street House. I was reminded looking at the Wikipedia page.
Oh, Jesus, what? Maybe I don't need to see this movie. It's all Easter. Oops, all Easter eggs. Okay. There is, let's stick with horror here. There's a Blair Witch, what is it? It's a reimagining, remake, reboot of the original Blair Witch.
All we know is, I think Mike, that one of the people we're about to mention, said it's not a remake, that, there's going to be a new Blair Witch movie.
Some new iteration of Blair Witch. And the directors, Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick, are coming back, as is producer Greg Hale. And also 2 of the original trio, which are Josh and Michael, who are part of the Blair Witch crew in the woods, are coming back, and they're all being made EPs on this movie. The only one who is not coming back is the woman formerly known as Heather Donahue, who has since renamed herself Ray Hance, and has been through notable hard times, and for whatever reason has decided not to take the paycheck on this one, even though over the past few years it seems like she's needed it. But this is also sort of like notable news because of how outspoken the cast were over, particularly like in the past couple years, about how they really got shafted by basically they basically hardly got paid for this movie, and over the years and the growing popularity of the movie never got any sort of residuals or any sort of like reciprocity. But yeah, so now most of them are executive producers. So
yeah, and so the director is going to be Dylan Clark, who's a YouTuber. It's a new big road to horror filmmaking these days, is be a YouTuber first. But so this makes me assume this is all them, and I'm not mad about this, by the way. This is probably going to be we get them a cut. I don't know how.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. Because of the unfair compensation they claimed. Like, I think this is the reciprocity that they were looking for, and so monetarily involved, and then also on screen involved, I suppose, right? Like with Josh and Mike.
Well, no, I don't think we've heard they're in it.
Oh, really? Are they just EPs then?
Yeah, they're all just.
So this is like they're just including everybody in the big cash roundup, right?
Yes, they're all getting EP credits. who's to say how much they will or won't be consulted? But I
don't
think
think they'll be consulted about anything.
Well, no,
maybe the directors, but yeah, like,
but it's gonna be like, there's a certain thing. John Carpenter with the recent Halloween trilogy was funny because he did score them, but he wasn't creatively involved in them. And Kevin Williamson on Scream 5 and 6 was an EP, and he visited the set, but he wasn't making the decisions. So I think it's the same thing, right? They will come to set, they'll get a photo of them on set, they will make money.
I'm saying they're not making any. They can get flown make business class to anywhere.
This is a good thing, obviously, because what a insane. We're talking about profit margins, and obviously Blair Witch is one of the most in the opposite of a Desert Warrior as far as what it cost and what it made. And Hollywood math screwing them out of making money all these years is ridiculous. As for Heather, I'm sorry, I forgot what you said. She goes by now.
Ray Hance, REI Hance. I'm not sure of the name change, but
glaring by her absence. When I posted about this, a lot of people did tell me some of the stuff you're saying. I hope she still got compensated with all, and I bet I don't think they'd want,
even without taking the EP credit. Yeah, right. I hope so. Yeah,
I can't imagine because they're doing this because they Blumhouse is involved now. They want to make this movie without having this and Blumhouse and everyone's we should say they didn't cause these problems, but now they have to solve these problems to make this movie without having the stars of the old movie and the filmmakers speak out. So I'm sure that they did right by her too, or offered to, and if she said decline politely, whether it was only the EP credit or anything, who knows. But yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't have left her out on purpose because they wouldn't want to get that bad press.
Maybe they can't find her because she changed her name.
Because she disappeared in the woods in 1989.
She did. Yeah. It's like, it's The Hunt for Ray Hance. That's the name of the movie. I don't know. Like, there have been Blair Witch. There was the Book of Shadows, which is a very different movie than the first Blair Witch in all ways. But I also still defend Book of Shadows as just a movie. And I didn't see the actual other Blair Witch movie. Third.
Yeah, we should do the trilogy, man. That's a Wingard movie too. Yeah.
But like, did that movie, was that a bomb or did that make money? Like, where are we at with the Blair Witch success?
No, it has a very funny audio commentary because most audio commentaries, unfortunately, are recorded when they're doing the marketing for in the buildup. And so they're always saying like, we're the week it's coming out, a week before. So they have no context on how the movie was received. Blair Witch 3, which is just called Blair Witch, Wingard and Simon Barrett, his screenwriter of most of his movies, like The Guest, they recorded it right after its bomb opening weekend, and they are drunk and joking about what a bomb it is on the audio commentary. And it is
Valerie Curry's in it, who you can watch on The Boys. Or The Following, that Kelvin Williamson show. Well, it made $45 million off a $5 million budget.
Oh, so never mind. No,
it wasn't like it did fine. It was it wasn't a huge bomb,
did
but it was
what
such a small
movie would have been extremely, extremely happy with, if it didn't turn into an insane breakout hit. Yeah.
Going back to the Blair Witch Well is always bizarre to me because it's like there is no way, just because of generational context and where we were with technology and the internet at the time, to recreate anything that happened with that first movie.
Culturally, you cannot.
You can make a great horror movie, but there's no way of catching that lightning in a bottle again because of how we were on the precipice of like, was it the first movie that used a website for marketing, but also like it used it to pretend like this was actual found footage and that it was real and it tricked people. And I watched it knowing it was not real and it still fucking freaked me out. So, I did not see it in the theater. I saw it at home before it came out. I don't know what we watched it on Ventura Canyon. We had a bootleg before it came out. Okay, I was gonna say we watched it before it came out, right?
Yeah, because somehow
and it was scarier watching it at fucking home.
Watching it on actual VHS tape before, it had been in theaters.
Yeah, I feel like seeing it with a full crowded theater would have actually been kind of a lesser experience in a way.
It was funny because they had to put up those notices about the shaky cam because it was really fucking with people.
Oh, in theaters.
Yeah.
I
remember those little notices up in the
May make you puke. Speaking of puke, and speaking of Michael Jackson, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the Thriller video when I was a kid, I have never had food sensitivities, whether like texture wise. I've never maybe there's some things I've considered oogie in my life, but I feel like I'm a pretty broad eater, though now more restricted because I'm vegan. But like, there was a time when I didn't eat, Eric. As a kid, I would eat like yogurt, like kid yogurt, like Dannon or whatever. We didn't have yogurt.
Well, they had fruit at the bottom.
No. I'm saying like not even fruit at the bottom. That was adult. Fruit at the bottom was fucking adult yogurt, Eric.
Well, my mom got that, and so that's what I ate.
Yeah. I'm talking about like your yogurt's already purple. Is what I'm saying. Like the fucking this is a blueberry yogurt, but it's already just fucking purple. And I would eat that. But then, like, I would say like 5 years after Thriller, I did not eat yogurt anymore because there's a zombie in that video that has like purple glop coming out of its mouth. And like, I couldn't remove the association of like zombie vomit from yogurt. Anyway, I'm better now, but I just wanted you to know that. Huh. And that's what Michael 2 should be about. Is about me, my childhood struggles.
Your trauma.
To eat yogurt once more.
It is about a child trauma, but it's not what you think.
It is. Okay. What's the next news story? CASPER?
Let's talk about child trauma with a dead kid.
CASPER, there's a live action CASPER series that is headed to Disney Plus. It's in development. Where are we at with it?
In development.
It comes from the guys who make the Goosebumps show on Disney Plus.
And Hillary Winston, who's a community writer. I remember.
And
her.
So it's coming. Now, I'm going to pitch something to you, Eric. CASPER versus Chucky. This is how we get Devon Sawa into the CASPER series and cross it over with the Chucky series.
I'm in. And B,
they're both, first of all, they're both little guys. Secondly, one's already dead and the other is like also already dead, technically. And they're just in different forms.
I'm sold, and this kind of crossed over into one of the reasons I want to talk about this, which is CASPER and Chucky are both Universal properties, so they could do it. This really just is a reflection of the changing tide of streaming, because this was a project in development for Peacock, which would make sense, because Universal, Peacock. So it's funny that it's now coming back for Disney Plus, still produced by Universal. Still produced by Spielberg, who, produced the movie in 95 and I think is still just attached in new CASPER projects from Universal. But shows you that Universal's like, because Peacock's never really been able to take off, that they're like, okay, let's go to Disney Plus, where honestly it would be a better fit probably just as a property. And so you've got like a major studio like Universal partnering with Disney here for this show.
Yeah. I don't care about it at all. I can also imagine that it would, like a Wednesday or something. It's like Christina Ricci is on board as a supporting character, or just gets, anybody, because there's a huge like 90s nostalgia now. As we've shifted away from 80s nostalgia, we're in the 90s period now.
I think Devin has a good chance of popping up on this
I think too, but that's why I'm saying bring in Chucky as well, since the Chucky series ended.
By the way, you were right when you said showrunners at Goosebumps, because Hillary Winston did work on that as well. But yeah, she worked on a bunch of, she worked on Community and Happy Endings, the Bad Tea, and My Name is Earl. God, she goes, actually though, but she was an EP on the CASPER movie. That's crazy. So there you go.
Oh wow, that was a while ago. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's wrong. I think that has to be wrong. She seems too young for that to be a true credit, but who knows? Sometimes IMDb, there's some fuck ups on.
Bizarrely, Heather Donahue's also an EP on the Casper movie.
Yeah,
she took that EP credit. Okay. And then we have we've got two more. Well, we got one more thing, but in two parts, which is one thing getting canceled, one thing getting renewed. Something given to us, something taken away. Gen V has been canceled, which I don't know. I wasn't following news too closely. I wasn't expecting the show to really come back. I think, especially with The Boys ending, I know the idea is you end the flagship show and you spin off with all this bullshit, kind of like The Walking Dead. But there are times when a show hits and that window of popularity is smaller and smaller these days than it used to be. It used to be like, oh, the show had a hot 5-year run in the middle, right? Which is like you got the beginning seasons and then you got the end seasons, and then in the middle is when it cooks, right? Mm-hmm. And like this is when people start talking about animated spinoffs or live action spinoffs. Like they did it way too early with The Witcher because of the success of the first season. But now, like the boys, like season 2 heading, like the time after season 2 heading into season 3, when they're like, we're gonna have all this boys stuff. The window closed on that hard, especially with season 3, when all the MAGA idiots realized that it was about them because they couldn't pick up on the context clues from the fucking first and second season. And then people started criticizing the boys more and more after season 3. Anyway, my point is that there was a short window for this when everyone would be like, yeah, Gen V, which I like. I like Gen V. But I don't think I expected it to come back. Anyway, I thought they'd just fold Marie Moreau into the boys, stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's interesting. So it turns out they had an idea for a season 3. They were developing it. So this wasn't like we all knew. Prime did make the decision based on ratings that, I guess because I think they were very high, but it had dropped off not to continue. On the other hand, the way season 2 ended, and I can, we don't have to go into specifics, but the first 2 seasons both ended with most of your main cast leaving the school on a show that was about young superheroes.
The soup school, right?
Yeah. And it felt like after season 2, no matter how the boys ends, it would feel kind of silly if they went back again. So to me, this is a natural endpoint for that show. I don't know if
I think it was really good supplemental boys material. I like it.
Yes, it worked on that level. Now we'll see, because Prime is not done with the boys. There is one spinoff already filmed, Vought Rising, starring Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash, which we're getting some setup for in the final season of The Boys, even though it's a prequel. But if you're listening to what they're talking about, especially with people they knew in the past and who had V1, you might be seeing some of the characters.
Side quest. Did you watch the Padalecki episode?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes, I did. That was fun. It was fun. I did not know that there was the poker game was gonna have all this.
Oh no, not at all. That
was very fun.
That was very fun. But so Vought Rising's happening for sure. It's been filmed. Then there's the Boys Mexico spinoff. That's the title. Which,
it's called Boys Mexico spinoff.
Yes. Which has Diego Luna and Gail Garcia Bernal attached as producers and possibly to star. And they said that's still in development. And with news of this cancellation, Kripke of Gen V, Kripke said, yes, we have ideas of how we could fold some of the Gen V characters into other stuff we have in the works. So again, we'll see. And maybe after Vought Rising, it all fizzles out. Who knows if Vought Rising doesn't take off. But they want to keep going with more stuff. But I also think Gen V, it's not like, oh no, they had so much more they could do. I'd like to see those characters more too. But I think that particular iteration did what it needed to.
I do too. And then Scrubs, the Scrubs revival has been renewed. Which, with revivals has been hit or miss as far as like what's worked and what hasn't. And this has definitely worked, especially since I kind of feel like Bill Lawrence is like the busiest dude in fucking show business these days.
He is at a place where Berlanti was at, like in the middle of the Arrowverse and Riverdale,
like
and all
when
that
like
stuff.
he had just, and like where Murphy was and kind of still is, but nobody gives a shit anymore. Like with all the fucking shows Ryan Murphy makes.
Oh, right.
Has his a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, and like he's with the 911s and also all the Netflix shows and the American Horror Stories and whatnot. But also he's sort of passe right now. But between this and the Shrinkings and the return of Ted Lasso and Rooster, and also getting a season 2, by the way, and should bring that up.
I forgot that Bad Monkey has been renewed, a show I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, which I've recommended. It's very good.
So I forgot he had 5 shows on right now. I say right now as far as like still, being produced.
Yeah.
That's crazy because if you look at his resume, obviously he hit the jackpot with Scrubs. 9 seasons, network show, huge syndicated hit. That's his Money Forever show, right? And then Cougar Town we liked Cougar Town, but it was nowhere near as culturally.
It ran for over 100 episodes.
Yes.
But
after that, he had a lot of 1 or 2 season shows.
Nothing. He had the one about the army. Wasn't there like an army one and like?
No, that was Enlisted, which is great. But was the other? It was someone who worked with him, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Was it Kevin Beagle?
Believe it was. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, then he had. I'm like looking here. Undateable, Rush Hour, Life Sentence, Whiskey Cavalier. Until Ted Lasso, it was like this run of shows that didn't hit. So it is funny now that he has 5 shows on the air simultaneously. Hey, good for you, Bill Lawrence.
Good for you. I have not watched. I really haven't watched the original Scrubs, nor have I then understandably watched the Scrubs revival. But I appreciate that it exists, and there are certainly other Bill Lawrence shows I watch.
You should only watch the weird Scrubs season 9 where they didn't want to call it a spinoff title, but they should have, just to be like, that's my Scrubs. Is like the divisive 9th season.
Not my JD. I don't know.
Right.
That's a character, right? Okay.
Yes, that is the main character.
What are the 2 dudes? JD and Turk, right?
Turk,
See,
yeah.
I know tangential Scrubs stuff. I know enough. I know enough to get by on Scrubs trivia. As I yell out Turk over and over again.
For like 20 questions in a row.
Yeah, like what was the name of the hospital? Like Turk.
Who is the saddest death? Turk.
Turk. I mix it up. I throw in a JD every 5th answer. Okay, that's our news. Let's get into some write-ins here. Brian has written in, I have never watched any of the Star Wars animated shows, but I decided to give the new Darth Maul series a try, and I've enjoyed it so far. Have you 2 been watching it all? Eric, he says you 2, but I really think he means you 1, because of the 2 of us who's going to watch a Star Wars show, it's going to be you. Have you watched Darth Maul, and do you like it if you have?
He's not Darth anymore, Matt. Yes.
I'm going by the fucking write-in. Don't yell at me. Yell at Brian.
Okay, Brian, how dare you? No, it's really good. It's really cool. In a way, Maul, and I'll make this one of my recommendations. Why not? Maul Shadow Lord is kind of the show that an animated show that a lot of adult Star Wars fans have been asking for from the beginning, which this kind of reminds me of Andor in that when I say, like, if all Star Wars were Andor, there wouldn't be Star Wars, because it's like what makes Andor special and interesting and unique also doesn't make a sustainable all ages, franchise.
Right.
So because Maul Shadow Lord is just like, oops, all the cool stuff. It's just people with red lightsabers fighting each other, deaths, intensity, just like, really cool, darkly lit action scenes. And so there's like almost none of the goofiness. There's some comic relief, but it's just really intense. It's really well done. It's, it's an in-between cool, which is tricky because not only does it have to pick up everything we know from the Clone Wars of the character, but it has to aim him towards his cameo in Solo. But I think it's doing it well. I like the storyline, the other characters they're introducing. It's funny that they've got recent Academy Award nominee Wagner Morrow as one of the primary cast on this. So yeah, I really like this show, and I think that people who haven't watched the other Star Wars animated shows can mostly watch this. Obviously, the biggest thing is like the people who are still like, how the fuck is Darth Maul even alive? Because that was one of the biggest swings Clone Wars took, and it's because George Lucas decided he's alive now at the time when he was still directly involved. But yeah, I really like it, and I've seen, everyone's seen now because they've aired the first 8, but they gave critics 8 of the first 10 episodes of all season 1, and I'm excited to see the last 2 episodes next week.
I don't know if timelines work because I'm not sure when Darth Maul came back and when he kind of places. Obviously, when does Darth Maul the series take place? Like
it takes
in the
place,
timeline.
Takes place. I feel like it's supposed to be like 2 or 3 years after Revenge of the Sith. It's like, early Empire.
Okay, so for him to make it all the way to the Rise of Skywalker would be a stretch. But my point is, would it have been a better if they had to bring someone back, like because it's like somehow Palpatine has returned, right? Like that whole bullshit. What if the villain in that movie was actually Darth Maul? I think people would have liked that way better.
Rumor is that's what Lucas was going to do in his treatment for the sequel trilogy. Is that he was going to have
that would have been so. Even though that movie was a mess, that would have been a much better like, hey, he's still around kind of thing,
Yeah.
Okay.
Now they've since told some stories that would make that not possible. But anyway,
that's what I mean. I'm sure it's been contradicted. That type. Anyway. Okay. Richard from Connecticut has written in. Hey fellas, I haven't written in a while, and there might be too much to cover here. So skip what you need, Richard. I'm not skipping a thing. Just like Aerosmith once sang.
Don't want to skip a thing.
Exactly. I wanted to send a thank you for some recommendations that you've made. Because when people do nice things for you, it's only appropriate to thank them for it. Firstly, I was a bit late to the pit, but thanks to both of you, I finally convinced my wife to give it a go. We were able to finish season 1 right before season 2 premiered, and we both loved it. Now we have to wait a year for season 3, and I want to cry. But Richard, this is Matt, side tangent. You only have to wait a year. That's regular TV. You should be thankful.
I know.
Like you don't have to wait 3 years, like a Return of like a House of the Dragon or whatever. Okay, it's just a year away. We can do it. We can do it together. Back to the write-in. Second, I want to echo Matt's recommendation for Rooster. Hey, we just talked about this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's some of the Steve Carell's best work since The Office, and the supporting cast is also great. John C. McGinley steals every scene he's in. If anyone is looking for a show that makes you laugh and just feel good for 30 minutes, watch it. Then he goes on. Any quick thoughts about WrestleMania? I agree with most about night 1 being a bit of a stinker and night 2 being pretty rad. It's okay to leave this one out, as I know most of the listeners probably don't care about wrestling, but I missed the old wrestling chat, so I thought I'd ask. Pause here to mention, Richard, I didn't watch WrestleMania. I was in Berlin, and even though one of the weekend days I was there, I had considered very briefly in my head, oh, I wonder if a bar is just showing WrestleMania. And they probably would, except for the time difference. And that's when I was like, oh, yeah, I remember how many people in the UK and overseas would complain on IGN boards and whatnot about having to literally stay up until 4 a.m. watching a pay-per-view because of the time difference. So these WrestleManias were going on in the dead of night when I was in Berlin. So I only caught highlights on Instagram and online and stuff like that. So, I didn't really care also this much about WrestleMania. So,
yeah, unfortunately, I'm in the same place. It was ironic because I was in Vegas for CinemaCon the week of WrestleMania, surrounded by WrestleMania imagery everywhere. And in fact, when I was leaving my hotel, which was so close to the stadium, I saw WWE parking signs, like for staff, as I was exiting. I did consider, Matt, seeing, could I figure out a PR person, especially because tickets weren't selling great. I was like, I wonder. There was an insane part of me thinking, what if I stayed? What if I stayed and went to WrestleMania? And then I was like, nah, I'm too exhausted. And honestly, I'm just not as invested enough right now. By the way, there's a lot of different things you can say about WrestleMania and the lead up and some of the botched storylines. But the fact that they've put their PLEs behind that ESPN, to me, is like a non-starter.
It's so like if I were here, I probably would have gone to see one of the nights or tried to see one of the nights
at the theater,
at the Cosm or a theater. Yeah. Theater's better than Cosm.
Yeah,
I mean, there's only 2 Cosms in the world, so don't worry about it. But like, going to see it in the theater is fun. So I probably would have tried to see it once, and I have people here that I could watch wrestling with, and so it'd probably just make it more of a social thing to see it because I wasn't like invested. There was a lot of like TKO meddling and a lot of like criticisms about like them butting into actual creative to change storylines and add Pat McAfee at last second, for which now he's just vanished from the storyline and it didn't mean anything. And a lot of people got let go in the wake of WrestleMania bloodbath that usually happens, many of whom were like dark gothic characters like the Wyatt Six and Aleister Black and Zelina Vega and stuff like that. And now there's rumors that there's a guy at TKO or a person at TKO who doesn't like dark characters, you know, and that's why like most of the people who got fired were sort of like the monsters. Anyway, I still watch Raw like in the background because I have Netflix, but other than that, I just sort of catch the highlights here and there.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, you know, I like it. I'm sure we'll weave in and out. That's just how it goes a lot. You know, something that's this long running. By the way, I nearly went to a WrestleMania watch party. I was invited for both nights. I was too exhausted from CinemaCon night 1. Night 2, I very nearly went, but then it conflicted with a going away party for a friend of mine, so couldn't make it. But yeah, and by the way, the fact that next year is in Saudi Arabia already.
No, that's the other thing is like all these business decisions that they're making, from that to the fact AI. That they basically the AI stuff used for the storyline montages now, and
the promo. Jesus, no,
it's terrible. And also the pricing out of families, like basically making it so that families can't go to events anymore. Like everything, even going to a Raw, and I'm not just talking WrestleMania where like front row is $25,000 or some bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like just going to Raw itself is so expensive because they're trying to make this a premium experience instead of making it a broad experience in hitting the 4 quadrants that wrestling usually does. Anyway, there's a lot of business decisions that suck. I was mostly invested, as I have been for the past few months, or at least maybe even since September, with AJ Lee's return and then Punk and AJ going into WrestleMania as champions. Like they both had titles and they got to be like do a lot of couples interviews and a lot of stuff they'd never gotten to do before in the world of wrestling, because they started seeing each other, but they never had an on-screen storyline. And he left when she was still around for another year in WWF or E. And like, so this is the first time they really got to work together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was what I was sort of most interested in, even though I knew they'd both lose their titles, and they did. So anyway. Then actually, Richard's write in, and you can write in too, at weenjoypodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on our socials, or go to the Discord or the Patreon, or we get your write-ins. However, he brings up Widow's Bay on Apple TV, and that is my recommendation this week. So I'll just say, he said, "Hey, have you seen promos for Widow's Bay? It looks cool." So I'm going to say it is cool. There are 2 episodes out so far because it's a weekly show and it drops on Wednesdays. And Widow's Bay is my recommendation. It is stars Matthew Rhys, who you will know obviously from The Americans, which is a tremendous show. It is it's billed as a horror comedy, but I don't want to sell it too much as a horror comedy in the way that you might think of a horror comedy. Think of it like the closest in tone I can think of is like a Werewolves Within, which is like, it's not an overt comedy.
Mm-hmm.
No one is playing it like a comedy is my point, I guess. But Widow's Bay takes place on like a Massachusetts island where the mayor, played by Matthew Rhys, is trying to give it a makeover, like an overhaul to attract actual tourism. Like he's got a writer coming in from the New York Times. He wants everything to be good, but he's surrounded by a bunch of superstitious islanders, yokels, who make things hard for him. And what I'll say is that I feel like it's Jaws from the point of the mayor.
I've heard other people say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, okay. Well, that's great, because that was my takeaway. I was like, this is like, because the island is kind of a cauldron of various maritime curses. It's sort of like everything that could possibly exist supernaturally is on this island, because the island itself is bad. So it actually lends itself to a good weekly series, because he's trying to he's skeptical, but he's as the show goes on, he's becoming more and more a believer that the fog is evil, or this bed and breakfast has tons of ghost shit, and all this stuff that he's trying to nervously cover up and ignore, because he's trying to get tourism in. He's trying to get he wants to make it the next Martha's Vineyard. Anyway, it's a very amusing show. It is created by Katie Dippold, who has written for Parks and Rec and Mad TV, and she wrote the movie The Heat, which I also recommend, which is a underrated, I think, Sandra Bullock, Melissa McCarthy movie. But she is the creator and showrunner here, and it also stars Stephen Root and Toby Huss and a lot of familiar character actor faces. But I recommend Widow's Bay. And
Katie Dippold, even if you don't know her, you've probably seen her. One of the greatest tweets ever. The showing up to the...
She's the Babadook, yes.
She's the Babadook at the dinner party that was more of a casual wine and cheese or whatever she wrote affair. That was her. Yeah, I haven't seen the show yet, and that's on me, because when I went to that Apple press day a few months ago, I loved the footage they showed us from this, and I was like, I need to watch that. And then when I got screeners, I was too busy. But I will check this out for sure, because this looks really good, and I like all those people involved.
Yes, that's my recommendation. Eric, you've already had one. What's your other?
I will officially recommend Margot's Got Money Troubles, another show from that same Apple press day, as far as when I was introduced to the show that was coming, which is in the middle of its season right now. I can't remember how many episodes have aired, so I'll tread lightly. But yeah, it's funny because this is a show that has some people involved who keep making shows I don't see, which is David E. Kelley, who's obviously been an omnipresent TV creator for many years, but in recent years has moved into the streaming space. But also Nicole Kidman, who's both an EP here and has a smaller role. She's not one of the main cast, but Nicole Kidman is this thing where this is her 6th TV show in 6 years, but it's the first one I've seen. But But the main cast here being Elle Fanning, Nick Offerman, and Michelle Pfeiffer, which is based on a book where Elle Fanning plays a college student. Yes, it's funny that Elle Fanning is still playing, I think, a character is supposed to be like 19 when the show begins, but a college student who gets pregnant. I know even, some people have to get past the hurdle of would she keep the baby or not, as in not even just the abortion of it all, but giving it up for adoption. She decides to keep the baby. She gets pregnant by her college professor, a ill-advised affair, but also a upset of power affair, where she has the baby. She is not well off, and she ends up making an OnlyFans to supplement her income. And it's a really fun. It pulls off something that can be tricky, which is sort of that going for quirky, going for salt of the earth people, because on no way are these supposed to be like hicks or anything. They live in Fullerton. They shot the show in Fullerton and in LA. It's very funny, Matt, because there's some parts where I get to geek out because I'm like, that is the roof of the parking lot of the Fashion Square in Sherman Oaks that this big sequence is happening at, or places in Burbank I recognize. But they also shot a lot in Fullerton itself, and that she and her mom, Michelle Pfeiffer, neither of whom have a lot of money, but Michelle Pfeiffer is trying to kind of marry a guy played by Greg Kinnear, who is a pastor, who will kind of set her up a little more. And then Nick Offerman playing her dad, who comes back into her life, who is a pro wrestler. And this is how Chris Jericho.
I was going to say, it's another Jericho project. Yeah.
Yeah. Jericho shows up in this playing himself. Anyway, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's the OnlyFans side of it is interesting as far as trying to, having this character who very non-judgmental about the fact that, she's going to make money this way. She's going to use her body this way. It's not like she was like beforehand someone who necessarily lent herself to doing something like this, but just kind of falls into it, finds out about it, and where that kind of leads her. Elle Fanning is always great. She is great in this. But besides the fact that you can say it's a fearless role because there's a lot of freaking nudity, some of which involves prosthetics because she has pregnancy or post-pregnancy fake boobs for some of it, but some of it does not have prosthetics. Just a really interesting depiction, I think, of this girl and kind of her self-will. And I think you really buy into her as a character. And Michelle Pfeiffer is great. She's always great, but this is a really good role for her. Has a person who's not naturally nurturing. Like, she loves her daughter, but she's also not like a great mom necessarily. And so she's not necessarily a great grandmother. And Offerman is great. It's really cool to see Offerman, how freaking diverse he is. I was like, is there many other actors I can buy playing the president and like a pro wrestler as easily as this guy? Like, I know John Cena
Terry Crews played a pro wrestler who was president in Idiocracy. So
John Cena just played the president in that movie with Idris Elba. But those are kind of going for the bit. They're going for the bit more of like how silly it would be if someone who looks like John Cena was president. And Offerman, you could just actually naturally have him in a movie like Civil War playing the president. But here you're like, oh yeah, I'd buy him as a over the hill pro wrestler. They have fake WWF clips from the late 90s that they made for the show, which is fun to see. And Nicole Kidman is another old wrestler who shows up. I say old, not in a disparaging way, but in a someone who's been around for quite a while way, which is what her character is supposed to be.
An elderly geriatric female wrestler, yes.
Yes. Decrepit. And you get to see Nicole Kidman and Chris Jericho in a wrestling ring together. It's amazing. Really enjoyed this show. It's definitely a dramedy, but I think it rides that line quite well. And I do want to say, and because the cast is like, oops, all big stars, which is so many streaming series these days, I really like Thaddeus Graham, who plays her roommate, the only person in the main cast who's like not a super recognizable person, even though I know she was on Sex Education, Matt's Sex Education, and other UK stuff. But I like her a lot on this series, playing sort of the Margot's friend who kind of sticks with her through all this. Anyway, it's on Apple. It's about halfway through the season. You should check it out.
I wanted to bring up, just to make this longer, I wanted to bring up that the director Hiro Murai is also directed the first two episodes of Widow's Bay. Hiro Murai sort of came into the spotlight with Atlanta. He was a collaborator with Donald Glover. and directed many episodes of Atlanta and
Yeah.
sort of like set the tone for that, as well as directing the first 2 episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, again, Donald Glover, but also The Bear. He directed the pilot for Station 11. So he is sort of at the forefront of that sort of new, and Barry, you know, these sort of like artsily shot dramedy black comedies, you know what I mean? So anyway, is also a part of Widow's Bay. I don't know that that's actually the selling point of Widow's Bay. I just thought it was interesting. Okay.
But you like to list people, so it's okay.
I do like to list people, to the detriment of this podcast.
It's also to its amusement, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, that's it for this week. And this episode's gone long. No, not really. It just feels long. It just feels long to me. God damn it. You have recommendations, your homework, and we've got The Bourne Identity up next in our run. So watch that and join us for that. Until next time, everything is possible, but nothing is real. And Shakma.
Shakma.
Shakma!